Hello everyone, and welcome to Stories by a Dinosaur. Today, we tell the tale of the very first clutch of Ferrite Adopts. Join us as we discover how Beached, Campfire, and Starlight came to be. For informational purposes, the subjects of the story themselves kick off about halfway through the video, but for a complete story, keep listening along from the beginning, and let's dive in together. Two creatures of excessive length scurried about in a fervent frenzy on a cliffside, baking beneath the scorching summer sun. Only the eastward breeze wafting off an unruly ocean far below offered any reprieve from the twin stressors of heat and exhaustion. Revitalizing rest beckoned to them from an oak forest just minutes' journey downhill. Its chilled rivers begging to grant relief to the overworked pair. But their minds were set on their task. Theirs was a calling which reverberated through all living things, muddied by another, altogether unique to their own species. Both animals were unlike anything seen by human eyes in their current temporal position. They were beings known as Ferrites, covered from snout to tail in thick fur, the first's coat designed in a rich, grainy wooden tone, while the other's was a dull shade of amber, flecked with black specks reminiscent of pepper flakes. Their tails spanned a length equal to their bodies, while housing fur so grand that it poofed and curled in every direction. Around the wooden-toned Ferrite's neck rested a miniature replica of a grandfather clock, hanging by a string ticking away, while the amber-toned ally had an assortment of fossilized bugs housed in a small pouch wrapped around its midsection. They found themselves in an age of hippies and societal change, a time when people were dangerous, but the collectibles were delectable. They'd pilfered markets and estate sales for antiques and scoured the forest floor in search of ancient amber. They'd stolen, collected, swiped, and acquired to their heart's content, until finally they felt it was time to move on. But then an unexpected twist changed their minds. Not one, not two, but 3 eggs sprung into existence from the wood-toned Ferrite. In an instant, their worlds turned upside down. All they had taken, now they wished to give. The wood-toned soon-to-be mother laid out all her most prized antiques into their nest. Their new hatchlings would surely love her clocks, her gold-plated silverware, her music boxes, and her plates. The amber-coated soon-to-be father laid his prehistoric ants, wasps, and yes, even his spiders, all crystallized to keep their offspring company as they matured into being. But not all would go according to plan. It is in a Ferrite's nature to nurture and care for their children as they come into the world. Their greatest joy is to rediscover the youthful process of finding that one thing they can stash eternally. Eventually, they would watch as their children passed through time and space, never to meet again, but to understand that their task is complete. Sadly, the humble joys of parenthood were not to be for this pair. For, at the time of their egg's conception, the duo had received a message from the universe most dire. Nearly all of Ferrite's life is left up to them. They choose the object they will steal, they choose their mate, They choose how they will live their lives. But when all is said and done, they are beings of time, and certain events must occur. It started with rips and tears in continuity, as the Ferrites gathered foliage from the nearby forest to claim for their nest. A tree would disappear nearby entirely. As they laid down to incubate their young, the sun would peek over the western ocean's edge just moments after it had slipped beneath the eastern tree line. For months, they ignored these signs, each feeling more called with each passing day, but their instincts raged against the ensuing tides. They knew that their eggs would be destroyed if they attempted to bring them with them to their destination in time. They were determined to watch their children hatch into the world. As summer raged on, though, the universe hit its breaking point with their insolence. On that fateful morning, as the pair lay on their craggy overlook, a tear opened in the sky above, and from it poured a being of myth and legend. The mother, a regular old ferret, coated in light brown with a dark mask. Every ferrite knew her story, a dragon who'd chosen mortality to live as a ferret. Her love for the species she'd created was so powerful that as she passed from this world, she was reborn as a keeper of time to look after them all. The pair's eyes met hers. Each passing moment communicated more emotion than the duo was prepared for. An outpouring of dedication, love, sorrow, and grief for the children they would never know passed in an instant. Empathy from the one being who could understand their situation better than even they themselves could was the ultimate persuasive tool. And when their gaze broke from hers, the mother was gone, but a message lingered. Just 4 words. One simple thought. You have one day. And so, at the end of a frenzied day in the scorching sunlight, 2 ferrites sat facing their 3 eggs, glowing in the fading twilight. The wood-toned mother sat up and curled her lengthy body around them, wrapping her tail up to their apex. She could hear heartbeats, movement from inside. She thought, if just for a fleeting moment, that she could feel something as well, an emotion, understanding, forgiveness. Would they survive? Neither parent could know, but their time had indeed run out. Their next destination called them, and they could not refuse. With one last look back, the amber-toned ferrite began to dig into the air. Faster, faster, faster his claws went, until he caught a temporal thread. A tunnel through time was opened, and the pair was gone. Days passed as 3 unremarkable beige eggs sat neglected through the scorching summer days and cool, clear nights. As with all ferrites, something began to awaken in each individual as their brains sprang into action. Devoid of sight and hearing, there was only the sense of feel extending from their shells to their minds, coupled with an emotion. And from these emotions, the abandoned Cliffside clutch longed for things and wished them into being. The first wish came from the egg closest to the ocean. On a particularly warm day, its inhabitant felt the ocean spray against its shell and longed for more cool water. As such, the world bent to its will, and the cliffside eroded rapidly and unnaturally until it came to the precipice of their nest. A raging breeze blew westward, and the egg began to tumble down the cliffside away from its companions. The rough, rocky ridges menaced with each tumbling leap, but the thickness of the ferrite's eggshell provided potent protection until it landed safely on the cool, sandy shore. In a mystical rush of chromatic splendor, the egg began to change color. Where its beige, unremarkable surface had been, vibrant red coral patterns began to creep upward. Deep ocean blue filled in the gaps, and slithering sea creatures canvassed hidden in depths of color. Here, amongst the seashells and waves, the first egg found life, and cracks began to appear. Through a minuscule opening, a glittering green eye peeked out and beached, took in the scenery of a new, wondrous world. Here, amongst the seashells, was where she longed to be. The second wish came from the egg closest to the forest. Missing the feeling of their mother wrapped around their shell, they longed for warmth. And so the world bent to their will, and a rip in time opened nearby. Through it stepped a group of humans with bloodshot eyes and greedy guts. "Whoa, dude, how did we get here? This is crazy," said one, though the words were lost on the egg clutch. There was much talking amongst the confused group, but in the end, the second egg felt itself whisked away in the arms of the humans toward the forest. The next thing it felt was heat, but there was more than it had wished for. There was so much heat it was unbearable even. The second egg's shell rippled in red, flames painting its surface. Before its color could fully paint on it, though, it began to crack. No timid eye would peek out into the world this time, as Campfire burst forth in a furious rage. Her brilliant red and orange fur lit up the faces of petrified stoners. At birth, as is a ferrite's right at their own discretion, Campfire was already the size of a full-grown adult, longer than the humans were tall, and she menaced at them. She bared her fangs at them, yellow eyes flickering with rage against rich brown fur on her head. Before she could fully take in the scene, though, the humans were gone, and only sparse equipment remained. Where did they go, she wondered. That thought was not long for this world, though, as she spotted something that caused her jaw to drop. A lantern, hung by a rope, was left sitting on the ground. She approached it timidly. The glimmering life it held within it was fascinating. Just a bit of fire, enough to light the way and keep her warm, but not to burn her. Hanging from Campfire's neck, the lantern went, and for all her life, it would be her constant companion. The third wish came from the lone remaining egg. No one left to comfort it. It sat alone amongst the antiques and amber, relics left weeks prior by the first loved ones to depart. More than anything else, that third little ferrite slumbering in their shell dreamed of companionship. And so the world bent to their will, but this time the only change was within the infant ferrite. The colors of the third egg changed. Deeper and deeper shades of blue filled its shell until it was as dark as the night sky. Then glittering lights began to appear one by one until the whole of its surface was aglow with stars. Moments later, Starlight burst forth in a flash of blues, browns, and yellows. Right out of the gate, An overwhelming sense of sorrow filled him as he looked around. Beneath, he saw an ornate ticking clock, surrounded by a bed of crystallized insects and spiders. Nothing else was present to keep him company, and an intense sense of nostalgia and loss came over him. Curling up in a tight coil, he nestled himself into the nest meant to be a home, but relegated to just being a bed. Through drooping eyes, Starlight's eyes drifted toward the sky. And as they did so, just minutes into his life, everything changed. There they were, glittering above, distant. He was as far from them as they from him, as they from each other. He was alone, but he was alone in solidarity with the cosmic wanderers. Starlight wondered to himself, could they understand their isolation as well? They, birthed in the furnaces of the universe and ejected to drift ever further from their companions, just the same as he was. Sorrow and beauty intermingled, and as Starlight drifted off to his first sleep, he felt a fleeting sense of joy. He had others who understood him, even if they were very, very far away. That is it for our tale today. If you're watching this video close to its release, then you do likely have a chance to own Beached, Campfire, and/or Starlight. Ferrites are a closed species you can find at Designs by a Dinosaur, social media links below, where you can also find physical fleece creations. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the stay in the channel, and that you have a wonderful day.